My name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network and Woman of Inspiration Awards. And this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. Today, it's my absolute pleasure to be interviewing our 2020 Woman of Inspiration Diversity and Inclusiveness Award recipient, Keshia Hollman Dawson. I want to make sure that I get your whole full name correct here. Keshia is the Black Law Students Association Calgary chapter president. Now, I'm just going to read a little bit about her bio. So just hang tight, Keshia. I just want to make sure that we get it all covered for everybody. And it's also going to be in the notes too, as well as some other great things about Keshia. So Keshia is born and raised in Calgary. Yeah, girl. Keshia is fourth generation Albertan, and she believes she began her studies at the University of Calgary as a Bachelor of Arts undergraduate honors student. Let's go back, honors student, researching the relationship dynamics of Indigenous women in street gangs. Very cool. Her community-based research and continued volunteer work with groups including Wellspring Calgary inspired her to advocate for all through law. She was accepted into the feminism, and I'm feminism to listen to different types of feminism, and I think I skipped a page here. Pardon me, rewind. This is live. But she was accepted into the Faculty of Law in 2019, where she later became the president of the UCalgary Black Law Students Association. So I would really love to know how that evolved and how you stepped into that role, because I think that's really interesting to learn for those of our listeners that are going, how did she do that? What is her journey like? What is her career path? I'd really love to share a little bit more about that. And there is so many things that we're going to be talking about today, including, how does it feel to be recognized first and foremost as a woman of inspiration? Just saying, girlfriend. Post Media national papers across Canada on Tuesday. This is how fresh it is. On Tuesday, your picture, where are you? You are right here. Where are you here? What row? Did you count it out? Aha, I see you right here.
Third row.
There you are.
The big fro that day.
It's gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. How did it feel to be recognized, Keshia? Maybe talk about that experience. It's still so fresh.
It's such a wonderful feeling, because a lot of the work that we've been doing with UCBLSA has been behind the scenes. And there's another really great woman that worked on a lot of these things with me. Her name is Betty, and she's another Black law student. And it's just not very often that we're recognized for these things that we're doing, and there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into it. So it's just a really wonderful feeling to have somebody celebrate your successes with you.
Awesome. So let's talk about that nomination process. You had a nominator. Did you know that you were going to be nominated?
Yeah, she told me she was nominating me, and she has been an advocate for me in law school from the very beginning. She supported everything that I've done. Her name is Heidi Exner. She was also a nominee for the award. And she, from the very first day, pretty much, she has been supporting me through everything, drawing attention to certain issues that maybe I wasn't even comfortable saying at first. It took a lot of things to kind of push me into taking on this role at first. And again, it was emotional things. And so she was there even before I was willing to kind of step up to the plate, backing me up. So, yeah.
Everybody needs a cheerleader and support her. And I know Heidi Exner is one of our top 150 Women of Inspiration finalists as well. So I think that is so beautiful. Our fellow award recipients and finalists are cheering each other on. I think that's super powerful, and it really raises the bar for all women. So let's go back to, how did you ever know that you were going to be in this role? Like, in the position of law, did you aspire to be that when you were a little girl? So let's go back to, 12-year-old Keshia. Like, did you have that in your plan? Did you have it all figured out at a young age? Tell us about that.
No, I absolutely did not. When I was younger, so I lived with my grandma and great grandma and my parents when I was younger. And my great grandma was really into ancient Egypt and like Cleopatra and Ramses and all that stuff. She was really, really into it. So I got into it as well, and I loved Tomb Raider movies. And so when I first went into university, I was in archaeology and Greek and Roman studies. And then I took some time off to help with some family things. And when I went back, that's when I went into law school. It kind of took some growing on my own and kind of mapping out my path to figure out that that's what I wanted to do. And I decided to go into law school because I wanted to help. It was really like an access to justice kind of thing that pushed me into that position. That too has evolved a little bit. I've gone more of an environmental route with law, and then the activism and human rights kind of interest is now in my role as the Black Law Students president.
Fantastic. So you're really doing something to help the environment and also keeping your pulse on encouraging others to sort of open up the doors for them to experience or access justice, but also to role model them, to encourage them to, step into those roles as well.
Yeah, it's and even the Black Law Students Association, I didn't know that that was something that existed in when I got into law school, and it really was just there's so few of us in law, and it was really just about a community, and I was approached and realized that there's a lot of other students that have similar experiences and feel that kind of isolation. So it was really like um, the beginnings of creating a little family in law school as well. It makes you a lot more comfortable when you're going into such a demanding and strange space. So yeah.
Well, and let's talk about the demanding and strange space here. I mean, student taking on roles of volunteerism and making a difference. I mean, there's not too much time that you have in your hands. You've probably got a very jammed schedule. How do you balance all of that, Keshia?
um, ooh, that's a difficult question. A lot of writing down notes and to-do lists, um, agendas, and trying not to overschedule yourself. It's a lot at the moment just because there are a lot of things going on. The university has collaborated with us on a lot of the calls to actions that we presented. So at the moment, it's overly busy. But I think the most important thing is that you're taking some time for yourself too. So I mean, I try to have at least a little bit of time where I'm just relaxing and not working on all these different things. Just even taking a bath ends up being a big part of that balancing factor. So
Mm. Well said. I have to say that during COVID, my son said, Mom, he closed down my computer, he put me a bubble bath, and he laid out candles everywhere. Like he made it like a spa.
oh,
This during heavy lockdown. And literally it was just a bath, with lots of candles and soft music. He made it really schwanky.
yeah.
But oh my goodness, like it was 30 minutes of pure bliss. And then it was the reset. So I think that's it, just little pieces, right? Of little rituals of self-care. And I'm the worst one for that, to be honest, because I love what I do. I could work 24 hours a day and be totally happy, right? Because I love what I'm doing. And I think you're the same. So that's the hardest thing for us, is to actually separate from that. Now, because you work so hard, you've got some big goals. What do you hope to achieve? I mean, now that you've got the recognition, that's national recognition, this it was a surprise, of course, but you know, do you see how that might elevate your work and maybe help put some of those projects that seem to be less visible more visible?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what we're doing with our group is that um, a lot of the criticism, I guess, comes from people not really understanding what it is. So having this recognition and being able to have conversations with people about what it actually means to students, to Black students, um, and other vulnerable populations is it's just that it's really important to have those conversations so people understand where we're coming from. And when we do have those conversations, people realize that it's really just about creating a space for somebody to speak about their story. And yeah, that's what this recognition and this platform does, is it opens that dialogue up. So
Mm.
yeah.
Fantastic. And I love how that space is created, because I think that moving forward from all of the, you know, months of, it seemed like one day to the next something was very different, there was some sort of, social injustice, there was just a lot of turmoil,
Mhm.
and hurt and pain, that was, happened in the past several months. And so I think probably one of the things that I know when I talk to people about is people are afraid of speaking out. They don't
Yeah.
want to say the wrong thing. So how would you encourage people to say, just to encourage them to speak out? Because I think the conversation is really needed, but people are nervous about it because they don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fine to ask questions. That's how we get somewhere, right? And um, the most beneficial conversations that we've had is because somebody is coming from a place of really not understanding at all and thinking that we're, it's some affirmative action and all we want is, to give somebody a kind of crutch, and that's not what it is at all. We really just want people to be able to speak about the things that they've overcome.
Mm.
And as soon as people ask the questions, it's really easy to say that. So and then they understand. Everybody struggles, but some people have unique struggles, and um, that's really what we just want to talk about, and show how powerful we are in facing those things.
Well, I think you're a breath of sunshine and you have such confidence. It just like bounces across the screen. So tell me, where did you get that power and that strength? Who were the women of inspiration in your life? Where did you get that role modeling from?
Okay, so this is a good one. So my mother is definitely my woman of inspiration. She is a paramedic. She raised my sister and I. My parents got divorced when I was 7, and my dad was still very much in the picture, but majority of the time it was my mom, and she was going to school to become a paramedic. She was still working to put food on the table. She raised us, and I think she raised two really strong, independent, resilient girls. And then I have another sister now too. So she had another daughter 15 years after having me, and has done the same wonderful job raising my sister. Uh, and I mean, she had me really young. She was 19 when she had me, and just was willing to put everything kind of on the back burner, all her goals of being a paramedic. She just worked for a while, and then finally when she did decide to go back to school, did all of that while working and raising us. So that's
Mm.
my woman of inspiration. We were not wealthy growing up, uh, and my parents lived with my grandmother and my great grandmother. We lived in their basement, and my grandmother and great grandmother are also huge inspiration for me, because they both, uh, as I said, they both helped raise us. Um, they ended up getting divorced, both of them in times when it was not customary at all. Uh, One left her husband because it was an abusive relationship, so she had the courage to kind of go out on her own and raise her children on her own. Again, two daughters. And then my great grandmother, she also left because it was an emotionally abusive relationship. and she kind of took that power, and that was even further back. So it was even less customary, and they made their way entirely on their own, and raised all of us. And I think that's where my strength and power comes from. And so kind of in taking that back, and because they did all of this work on their own, or with the support of other women, so my grandmother with her mother and my mother with her mother, that's where my second name comes from, in my last name. Hollman is my dad's name, and Dawson is my great grandmother's name. So what would have been our last name had they not married the men they had.
Fantastic. Well, I love the strength of your story. And I just want to say, we talked about it in the green room. I said that my grandma, right? So we have
Mhm.
some similar background stories. She was a single mom way back when, like she'd be in her 90s now. And, she raised my mom and then got, like, she was married 3 times. And then the only person that I ever knew was my grandfather. But doesn't matter because those become our people, right? Those become
Yeah.
the people that we look up to for support and part of our family, whether they're blood or not. But it is true when I think about the women in my life, certainly my mom and my grandma have always been really strong. And, I can relate to the, you know, um, raising a family without little bits there, right? I mean, I raised my son with my mom for 4 years in her basement, right? I mean, you just do what you need to do to get by and start rebuilding your life. And I really love how that has made you such a stronger woman, because we always go, oh my God, that wasn't like the perfect way, but it bonds the family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was just a bunch of women in our family. So that was my example growing up. I just had a bunch of really strong independent women, and that was the norm for me. So when people kind of when you go out into the world and realize that that's maybe not always the case, and this was very much a reality for my race as well. Like, you just go around thinking that your situation is the normal situation, and then you're put out there in this world where maybe it's not fully equal for everyone. And that's really what motivates me. I want everybody to feel powerful in exactly who they are, in their identity, and just thrive because of it, and not as a result of not as a result of it.
That is so wise. That you've got so much wisdom. And I keep referring to this rock star nomination package that you submitted. And we asked you about your definition of resilience. And so maybe you can explain a little bit about your definition of resilience, because I think that that's what really, the adversity helps you through the tough times, but really just paves the road so that you can take on anything. So maybe, what's your definition of resilience? Maybe you can share that.
Mm, I really truly believe that resilience is about taking the adversity you face and making it into something. Um, so again, with the struggles, success for me is not um, just in all of the victories we have, but it's about overcoming those struggles and what you make of it. So I really do think that there's a factor of agency in all of the things we do, and that we can take whatever pain we have and make it into something powerful. And that's resilience to me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that out. I want to say that you've also said that there were some lessons during COVID. So what was some of your biggest lessons over the past few months here? Because we're still in knee deep into it. Now we're going into the second wave. So probably have more lessons on the other side, but what are some of your biggest takeaways?
Slow down. It's okay to be at home sometimes, and just take some time for yourself, and to really embrace whatever is thrown at us. I mean, we started off with a little bit of a lockdown, and I know that a lot of people were struggling with that, and everybody has a different situation as well. Um, so whatever comes out of that, I think it's about taking that and learning and using it to kind of analyze who you are and how you deal with things, and maybe how we can improve those things as well. So I know it's much harder for somebody that's an extrovert, whereas me, I'm an introvert, so I quite liked it, but it just gives you time to reflect. And I think that in a more general sense, it's given us a little bit of time to think about what really matters the most. And if we were going in the right direction, and maybe again trying to improve how we were doing things before.
I love that. And I think I'm a little bit about the extrovert and introvert, because I actually am happy just doing my thing and I don't need anybody around to do it with me. But then I love to do stuff with people. So I'm a little bit of both, to be honest. So COVID has been interesting, but it's platforms like this, and like we had with our awards, where hello, like we have close to almost 7,000 views of our awards.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not alone. And I know that when we had the after party call, everybody was in their bubble, and we were on there, I think, beginning to add some, we just like, we got to let go of each other here. It's 4 hours later. And it wasn't the after party 4 hours, but it was like beginning to the end. We're like, because I opened the door for the after party, and then we had everybody staying to the last minute. But it was, everybody was in their own bubbles, because of that's what COVID sort of, had us work with this year. But I felt so immensely bonded with everybody, even though we were completely apart. So how, and I think that's really interesting too, is about that support network. So who've been your biggest support networks? I mean, we can't do it alone. Keshia, you're very smart. You're reaching out to those people. So how do you do everything that you do, and who do you lean on for support?
Again, mostly my mom. She gets the early morning crying phone calls for the most part, and I have a really great partner. He was the one that was there when I was really upset about the George Floyd video and Breonna Taylor's verdict. He's the one that's there making sure that I'm okay. So a big part of it is having allies as well. And even when we were writing our calls to action, huge support from the other members of our group. But then also we had a lot of other students who weren't necessarily Black students offering to help us out. And I think that's really important. You don't have to be the same or have the same experiences to have support from someone. So I have such an amazing family for support, which again, I know not everybody has. And that's why it's important for me to provide a space for people to speak. But then also just, I have a great partner. I have really great friends. I have great peers in law school. It's like, lawyers are not what you think they are. They're like the nicest people. I can't stress it enough. So I really have just a great support system all around me. And that's what pushes me to keep going. So yeah.
Awesome. And I love the support system. I like how you called out the allies, because of course, you know that we honored men that champion for women, so they can call to action more men to champion for more women, right? I think that's really important, to include the men to the conversation that are champions. Forget about the ones that don't, okay? We'll have to work on those ones. But the men that are champions, like, bring them forward, let them help, let them push us forward, right? So that's awesome. I love how you're talking about that. And now I want to talk, if you'd share a little bit about your calls to action, because my girl, we have a platform now. So why don't you share a little bit about those calls to action, so we know what you're working on with your team? And, there's always going to be somebody that's listening that could say, you know what, I'd love to get involved. I can get involved. How can I support you? So why don't you share those calls of action?
So we wrote this huge, big, like 20-page calls to action. We really wanted to put the research into it so that they couldn't really be ignored. And majority of it was about reforming the admissions process so that there was a space for Black students to speak about their unique struggles. There was already an admissions process for Indigenous students, and seeing that there's such a large underrepresentation of Black people in the legal profession, and also just a disproportionate rate of Black people incarcerated. And we really wanted to address that. So that's an easy way to get Black students in law school to establish that trust and see that the school they're applying to thinks that their voice matters. That was the biggest one for us. We also suggested having anti-racism, critical race theory type training incorporated into school, have an Indigenous mandatory learning class as a part of law school, because that is very much a big part of the population that we're serving if we're going to be lawyers one day. So we really wanted that in there. Having additional funding, again, there's scholarships for lots of different groups of students, but there were none specifically for Black students at our school, aside from them kind of promoting one that was a national and competitive scholarship. So we would be competing with students from all across the country to get this one scholarship, and a fairly small one in comparison to other ones at the school, addressing like a little bit of hiring and having targeted mental health resources for Black students as well, because there's very often unique mental health struggles. Black people in Canada are either or very commonly immigrants, or they are African American, which makes them descendants of enslaved people. So intergenerational trauma plays a huge part in mental health as well. And we wanted to be able to address that. So since my nomination, they've actually we've been collaborating with the university, and there is a Black student admissions process at U of C now. Yeah, and we worked with a local group called Color Factor, which is a Black and Indigenous person of color mental health group that provides cultural services and resources. So they're on our list of wellness resources at the university as well now. They incorporated anti-racism and critical race theory as a part of our mandatory foundations course at the beginning of law school for first years. They're also going to be incorporating it into mandatory negotiations and advocacy courses in second and third year. So all levels of students will be receiving that training now. And they've reallocated one of the larger scholarships to be dedicated to Black, Indigenous, and person of color students as well. And a lovely woman, another woman of inspiration, decided to endow the university and has created a scholarship in honor of Black students as well.
Well, so who is that woman? Who is that woman?
We don't know her name yet, but she saw some of the media releases from the new admissions process and donated and created a scholarship for Black students. So.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is, I'm getting goosebumps. I love it. Okay, so listeners, look at what can happen if you put it out there, you see something and you can make the change. I am getting goosebumps. As I'm going, I'm like, okay, so I know that you're busy already, but here's what I'm thinking. Template everything that you're doing. Let us help you spread that word. Why can't you take that same template and champion other universities across Canada? Easy peasy, right? You've already done it once. All you need to do is, so let's do a call to action to contact Keshia if you're from another university across Canada, and let's see if we can get this bigger. Like, why can't you make that widespread? It sounds like a beautiful program that has been widely accepted at our university. And so have that like just continue out through Canada. You've done all the work. Now just duplicate it. Does that not seem simple?
Honestly, like a huge factor we were bringing the work to the table, but it takes collaboration, and our university has been so amazing. Our university leadership has been so amazing. They've advocated for us. Our faculty specifically has done such an amazing job from day one, reaching out to make sure that we were okay when all of this was going down in the summer. That's something that you would not expect a dean of a law school to do, and he did it. And then had meetings with us right away. The first mention that we made of the admissions process, Catherine Velestak, our assistant dean recruiting and admissions, started working with me right away to make this happen.
Mm.
Consulted with us all the way, made sure that I was consulting with African Caribbean groups in Calgary, and asking their opinion on kind of what questions to implement in the process. Got my advice on, or got me to seek out Black lawyers and practitioners and alumni to compose our subcommittee. So, I mean, very much it's collaboration with our university as well. So even if there are other universities and faculties that have been doing this work, it's very much about the university leadership coming to the table to be ready to discuss these things and implement these things as well.
Mm. Well, I hope that we can help raise that awareness for you through this Woman of Inspiration podcast and through your 2020 Woman of Inspiration well deserved Diversity and Inclusiveness Award. You're a rock star. You really lead by example. You're a student and you're making such a big impact in the world, which is mind-blowing. And I hope that it inspires our listeners today and inspires them to action, like of some kind, right? To reach out, to learn more, to make a phone call. Because I always say, how can you support her? You can invest in her, you can buy from her, you can write a testimonial from her, you can share her story. There's so many different ways that people can champion. And I love hearing that there's some anonymous woman of inspiration that has stepped up to support that scholarship program for Black law students. I think that's amazing. And I have to also say, Black female law students, like, if we take that, it's an even smaller chunk, because I know in that profession, there's like, what are the stats between in law of men and women?
And in law, it's evening out quite a bit. In leadership positions, women are still not equal there. There's a lot of opportunity to make women lawyers partners. That's still a big thing. But there is a huge lack of Black women in law. And it's not just because of them not getting into the position, it's about keeping them there too. So we want to do the work, we want to be there, but there's different factors that are weighing in there, and it kind of shows the intersectionality of things, and that adversity increases when there's multiple factors. And I mean, that's for anything really. So it's just important to be aware of those things, to look around. Who do you surround yourself with? Maybe there's a chance to be more diverse, to open up your feed, read different books, understand different perspectives. There's always an opportunity there.
Well said, because I was going to say, what would be some of your words of advice to help our listeners out? And I think you just rattled them off. Learn more, get educated, ask questions, and spread the word. I think that's really wonderful. And I hope I summed that all up. Is there something else you'd like to add to that?
That to say to Black women that you can do it too, like that there might be struggles and a unique experience, but that we can do it too. It's it might take a little bit extra work, but you absolutely can do it. So do it. You just have to take the initiative to do it.
Awesome. So now I'm going to switch and ask, we're just going to wrap up shortly. This has been an absolutely lovely, lovely interview. Each one is uniquely different. So, listeners, I'm speaking with Keshia Hollman Dawson, and she is the president of the Calgary chapter. And I want to get this right, of the Black Law Students Association in Calgary. So, thank you so much for an amazing Woman of Inspiration podcast. Congratulations again on your 2020 Woman of Inspiration Award in the diversity inclusiveness. And honestly, you are really raising the bar. I wish you nothing but success. I really look forward to how we can help support you on your journey, because we have a national platform. And of course, we represent every woman, right? Every single woman is represented with the Universal Women's Network. And so there's lots more coming. And I hope that you'll get involved and see how we can support you and on your journey as well. So for those, you're such, everybody says, what is your definition of a woman of inspiration? I want to leave with that, because when people look to all of our award recipients, they want to know, what is that definition of a woman of inspiration to them? And so I'd love to be able to share what your definition of a woman of inspiration is to our listeners today.
To very simply put, a woman of inspiration for me is a woman that overcomes anything. So
anything.
Yeah, anything. We're capable of overcoming anything we want, and it's about your choices. So if you choose, not to be on the same path as everyone else, I think that's totally fine. It's about overcoming.
Awesome. That is great. That is an absolute wonderful way to end our podcast. I am so super happy that we've had the opportunity, while it's still really tingly fresh, and to talk to you and to learn more about the great work that you're doing. My mind is zooming, because I've got lots of women that I even know in my circle with in the profession of law, and certainly some Black law lawyers, pardon me. I get all excited, I can't even talk. And no, I'm not redoing this over again. That's just as authentic as it gets. But I'm already thinking about, who I can introduce you to. So I encourage listeners that to take the information below. And if you think that you can help and serve and provide leadership and help Keshia in her goals, I would certainly recommend that you reach out to her. And I know that we have your LinkedIn, we have your contact information, all that sort of stuff. And I really look forward to really supporting you on this journey, and an epic 2021 ahead. You certainly are raising the bar, and I really think this is only just the beginning of what's going to come. I look forward to having another interview, like a little mini catch up in a year's time, because honestly, you'll be like, Monica, I can't believe that last year just happened, because that's how game changing it is when we put women in the spotlight to be seen, heard, and valued. So thank you everybody for listening. My name is Monica Kretschmer, and thank you so much to Keshia Hollman Dawson, our 2020 Woman of Inspiration Diversity Inclusiveness Award recipient. Have a great day. And for those that are tuning in, there's more on the Woman of Inspiration podcast as we interview women who are leading, inspiring, and motivating others to dream big and to make an impact in the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks.